All right, you're good to go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Tater Talk. It's episode 65 on Monday, June 18th. I'm your host, Justin Ledger. As always, I'm joined by Zach Hummel. What's going on, Zach?
Nothing much, man. Nothing much. Trying to stay out of this heat. We were talking about it before the podcast. It's starting to heat up out here in
Yeah,
the Northeast.
miserable weather. It's actually miserable today. It's not a nice heat. It's humid. It's gross. There's thunder going on outside. I'm not really sure what's going on. It's disgusting. It's quite literally the dog days of summer right now in both life and baseball. So that's what we're dealing with today.
Do you remember like playing in this weather when you were younger? Like it didn't seem
Unfortunately.
as hot when we were younger, but now it seems
Yeah,
hot because
yeah.
we're not playing. Like you would just be you'd be sweating, but you'd be with your friends and playing baseball, so it wouldn't even matter.
I was just about to say I'd rather be on a baseball field in this than commuting home from work and having to deal with like
Yeah.
my AC doesn't work in my car and having to deal with that on the way back. Like that's life. Life comes at you fast. I'll say that. Um,
You
but
gotta get
anyways,
your car AC to work, man.
dude, believe me, I've been trying for the last like 5 years and we just haven't gotten around to it. Like it's just something that has not happened yet. Hopefully it will soon. Hopefully, my fingers crossed. It'll probably get fixed in like November. That's usually how it goes. When you don't need it anymore, it'll be taken care of, and then my heat will go in
Yeah.
like December. That's how life works. So on that note, we'll get into, as always, our favorite stories. We do not have producer Graz on the show today. He is out. So we will be carrying the load here. He did leave us a favorite story of his that we will bring up. But I will start with mine here. We did have Father's Day yesterday on Sunday, and there always seems to be each year, whether it be on Mother's Day or Father's Day, there always seems to be that moment, that Father's Day or Mother's Day moment that kind of, it's one of those moments like, it's getting dusty in here and I'm not crying, you're crying, like those types of moments, because sometimes we'll get them on Mother's Day, and this time we got one on Father's Day with a walk-off hit, a walk-off single. I don't have he's not like a well-known player, and I don't have Jose Trevino. That's who it was. Jose Trevino of the Rangers. He had a walk-off hit, and it was actually 2 runs that scored. It was just a miraculous moment, and he obviously got emotional after he lost his father, I believe, years ago. So it's a moment. And the other part of this is he became a dad earlier this week. So all of this shit happening at once, that'll get anybody emotional. And it was one of those moments for me where you got to break out the tissues because it'll get you. Like any time a guy in a post game interview gets emotional like that, I get emotional. And I know it's not baseball, but this happened to me in hockey too with the TJ Oshie interview after the Stanley Cup, talking about his dad having Alzheimer's and shit. So that'll get me to tear up 10 times out of 10. So that was my favorite story of the week.
Yeah, I had that as my favorite story, but that was the pinnacle. The guy
Yeah.
couldn't even get a sentence out because he was crying so much. And he said his father was with him and all that good stuff. And he said during the at bat, he was thinking about his father, which is insane. But I guess it gave him that confidence and that calmness to get the walk-off hit. And like you said, he's not a known player, but he's a Texas kid. I'm sure he's always grown up and wanted to get a walk-off hit for the Rangers. So that was huge. I'll pick another one that just came out today, Monday, when we're recording this.
Yeah.
Bryce Harper has officially shaved his beard.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. How do you look at this? Do you look at it as he's about to turn it around, or do you look at it as like there's some trouble going in Harper's head right now?
to me, that's a mental issue.
Yeah.
The fact that he thinks he has to shave his beard and it will actually affect his play on the field. I mean, that's a red flag. I read an article today that someone wrote that he's playing himself out of the $400 million contract. And I hate to say it,
I agree.
I don't like to jump to conclusions, but I'm starting to agree with that take that some people are having around the country. National baseball writers.
The thing is, he's showing all of the flaws that he's been judged about. Like, he's been called overrated in the past, and then obviously you have the Harper stands who come and like they throw his MVP season at you and all that shit. But I mean, all of his flaws are showing in this season so far. And again, like you said, it is early. It's only June, and for all we know, he could come back in the second half and have an MVP caliber season. There's plenty of time left to do it. He still has a pretty high OPS. It's just his batting average is in like the 220s. But he walks so much, pitchers are still afraid of him. So that on-base percentage is still sky high. That being said, this is alarming. And the other aspect to it, I want to know your opinion on this, Zach. every single comment underneath the tweet that said that he shaved his beard was, uh-oh, the Yankees are in town. That's why he's shaving this beard, is to give them a little look at the clean-shaven Bryce Harper for when his contract is up and they go to sign him. I know it's like that's what you start getting into conspiracy watch when you bring up those things, but I mean, there might be something there. There might be something there.
I'll say this: if the Yankees want to spend $400 million on Bryce Harper, at this point, please go ahead.
Yep.
Please go ahead and do it, because he's, like you said, his flaws have come out this year. And Juan Soto is the hottest thing on the street with the Nationals now. So Bryce Harper's an afterthought. Juan Soto is the new hot thing on the street.
Yeah, maybe Harper shaved it to get the attention back on him instead of Juan Soto. That could be a factor too. And Juan Soto, people forget that he's only 19. We got to mention that every time we bring up Juan Soto. He's 19 years old. So actually, going off of that, changing subjects a little bit, today, another story today from the Nationals with Juan Soto. He hit a home run today, first off, that landed on fucking Saturn. The other part of it was a continuation of a May 15th game against the Yankees. It got rained out in the 6th inning. They continued it today, Monday. And so this, I guess, counts as Juan Soto's first home run in the majors, even though he's hit 6 before this. I don't know. It's a little bit confusing when you try to explain it, but all you need to know is the game got postponed and Juan Soto hit a home run in a game that technically he was in Double-A when they originally played it.
I know, this is going around Twitter, and this is totally why people call baseball people nerds sometimes. The fact that people are trying to figure out if this is his first home run, like how to score it, all that good stuff is just. Can we just appreciate that he hit like a 470-foot home run?
Can we focus on that? I actually tweeted about it because the official MLB account tweeted out the video of the home run, obviously, and the caption for the video was it was something along the lines of "Try to process this." Juan Soto hit a game that he was like, it was, I don't know, he hit a home run in a game that started when he was in Double-A, and it's like, well, yeah, it's not that hard to process. It was just, a continuation of a game that was postponed. But like, let's focus on the fact that it was like a 500-foot homer in the highest fucking place in National Park. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, it's like something Tim Kirkjian would say on like Baseball Tonight, and I'd be like, oh, that's interesting, and then I just forget about it the next second.
Exactly. The other story we had, this was, I believe, yesterday, Sunday. This is actually Groz's favorite story. He told us this was his favorite story of the past week, and I really can't blame him here. It's the Brewers relief pitcher who just straight up puked all over the mound, not once, but twice. Adrian Hauser, I believe his name is, and I think he was called up from AAA to the big leagues that day, too. So I don't know if nerves was a factor or if anything else came out on this, but it was a hilarious moment. Just the image of a Brewers player or this guy just puking on the mound. He let up a double and then he puked again. Hilarious stuff.
Yeah, speaking about red flags with Bryce Harper shaving his beard because he thinks he will get a psychological advantage, this is a red flag. If you bring a guy up and he's literally puking on the mound, I mean, the Brewers. They called this guy up. I'm sure he's nervous, but having a guy puke on the mound, that's not normal practice. So yeah, I mean, a little bit of a red flag for the Brewers. I would keep an eye on this guy for sure.
I actually give this guy a lot of credit for staying out there and being willing to just finish off the inning. What the fuck is Craig Counsell doing? Like leaving this guy in there who's puking all over the place. I would rather leave in a guy who's actually hurt than a guy who is puking all over the mound. I don't know what was going through his head.
I mean, I don't want to break down the puke, but it seemed like a very watery puke rather than a food puke. So yeah, that's tough. I think he might have just been. I think he might have just been too much hydrating before the game, and it eventually came back to bite him.
Well, if it's too much hydrating before the game, then the training staff did a terrible job because all they were doing was giving him water. When they went out to the mound, that's the only treatment he was getting. was a bottle of water, and then he was told to just keep going.
Yeah, maybe he was out. Maybe he was out in the bullpen just chugging monsters and stuff. He gets out there and just has to throw it up.
What I hated was all the featured images for like the blogs that wrote about this and all of the thumbnails from the video. You could just see the puke perfectly, and it was absolutely disgusting. It was like, you can't choose another frame to just put in there for the image. We all get by the headline that he puked. You don't need to show us the puke. I think puke is more gross than poop. I think puke is disgusting.
I would agree with you in that if I smell puke, I'll want to puke more than if I smell poop, I'll want to poop. If that makes any sense.
What? I don't think that's what you meant to say.
No, that's not what I meant to say. But the fact that like if you smell puke, you want to puke afterwards. It's tough to be around someone that's puking and not want to puke yourself. So
well, not just smelling it, like looking at it. It's just not something I want to look at. Like it's just
props to the Brewers players for not puking after they saw that.
Yeah, that's another thing is like if you're a secondhand puker, if someone's puking, like there's a lot of secondhand pukers out there who, I mean, it could have been a Family Guy situation with the entire team just started doing it, which that would be an all-time clip.
Like a contagious, like a yawn. Like once one person does it, just goes throughout the whole team.
Yeah, and speaking of an all-time clip, this came early in the week, so this is a little dated at this point, but it's still very much worth talking about. Is Terry Collins. The clip came out of him just going absolutely apeshit at the umpire, the umpire screaming back, "Our ass is in the jackpot," and the whole thing is just gold. It's just the perfect clip. This is why the internet was invented, so clips like this can surface. And Rob Manfred, the buzzkill of Major League Baseball, makes sure that this clip is quote unquote scrubbed off the internet. That's what he said. First off, I am positive that if I tried to find a clip right now, I could find it. Secondly, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, that they felt the need to get this off the internet, because everybody was interested in baseball when this clip came out. Everyone's like, this is funny. Like, I want to see more of this. And sure enough, MLB finds a way to just screw it all up.
So I've never been a big hockey guy, but I've wanted to be a hockey guy because they have their own lingo and they sound really cool discussing it. Like for the 24/7 stuff in the NHL, hearing the guys chirp each other with like the most random lingo is like hilariously funny. So baseball should want more of this because our ass is in the jackpot. That's MLB just lingo, and I would have never known that if I didn't hear that. So I think there needs to be more of this. I would love to. And then the Padres manager this week, he got tossed by Joe West.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was mic'd up, and he's like, all right, I'll leave, Joe, but you're going to screw up another call. Like, I love hearing that stuff.
Oh, my God. If we could get a exclusive, because I know MLB just wants to make more and more money without having to share their clips anywhere. So if we could get an exclusive mic'd up MLB package, like an MLB TV type thing, but everybody's mic'd up, and you can choose who you listen to and shit. I mean, $1 billion idea right there. That might save baseball, because everybody, it doesn't matter what sport. If an athlete is mic'd up, that's the most interesting part of the sport. When they do the mic'd up during all-star games, that is awesome. When they do the mic'd up interviews, that's great. And they should have done more of that throughout regular games this season. So MLB has a lot to figure out in that aspect. And that, I don't want to get too far into this, but like that has a lot to do with why there's not much interest in the sport. Like attendance ratings are down, all of that stuff, because there's no human element. There's no excitement, or at least people don't think there's excitement, because clips of the exciting moments aren't really circulating on the internet. So it's all those factors combined into one.
Yeah, they're like the only sport that doesn't do like a 24/7 or a Hard Knocks type of thing. Like
the
NFL,
God.
They have sound FX every week. Yeah. They mic up like 8 to 10 guys, and I watch that religiously because I just want to hear what the players are saying to each other.
Dude, I would watch the Cincinnati Reds like Hard Knocks version. I would watch that.
I know.
Like, it's just too. It doesn't matter for me what the organization, who the players are, what the team is. It's always interesting to get that inside access. Always.
Yep.
All right.
Agree.
Yeah. So moving right along here, kind of a downer of a story, going from a funny one to a downer, is Miguel Cabrera, who, definitely one of the best players of our generation. That's for sure. He's out for the season I think he tearing his biceps. I'm pretty sure that was what it was. And that leads us to the question. I mean, I'm sure he's going to make a comeback attempt, but he was already kind of washed anyway. So I think it's worth at least discussing. Is he done? Is Miguel? Have we seen the last of Miguel Cabrera, at least as we know him? I'm giving that question to you, and then I will answer right after.
Yeah, I think we haven't seen the real Miguel Cabrera in 2 to 3 years. This season he still has a good average just because he's such a professional hitter. He can use all parts of the field. His power's way down, which makes sense because his body's breaking down on him. He's got no legs to stand on, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But the Tigers have been playing great baseball. It's crazy. Like,
very strange. And I
think his leadership.
Castellanos is carrying.
Yeah. I think he's been a great influence for those younger guys. Because if you look at Castellanos, he was a very pull happy hitter coming up, and I think Cabrera's helped him. He has so much power to the opposite field now. He's a great opposite field hitter. He's one of the best average hitters in the MLB. But in terms of Miguel Cabrera, I think he was done when he was about 32. So I think he could come back as like a DH and more of like a leader guy, like a David Ross type guy who like doesn't play a lot but is a good like locker room guy.
Comes in like clutch situations, like pinch hitter kind of role, like that aspect.
Sure.
Yeah, if he's willing to take on that role, I still think he'd be good at that. Definitely.
I think you have to consider him the best South American baseball player ever. I mean, he's from Venezuela. I can't think of another better player from Venezuela or Colombia. So
it's tough. I mean, it's definitely gonna be tough to find another player like that for sure.
Yeah. So I think he goes down as, just his legendary status. He'll go down as definitely one of the top 5 hitters of our generation.
It's crazy too, because he fell off a cliff. I mean, it wasn't that long ago where he was one of the best hitters, without a doubt, in the majors. It was not that long ago. So to see him kind of drop off like this, and now he's out for the season with an injury, it's very sad because again, he was one of my favorite players of this generation, and just one of the stars, the very few stars of baseball. Baseball doesn't have many players who you can look at and be like, that guy right there is a star, and a star athlete. And Miguel Cabrera was that for a little while. He was the only competition for the MVP against Mike Trout. Like it was him or Trout. There wasn't really going to be another guy racing for the American League MVP. So hopefully Miguel Cabrera makes a comeback, full comeback. We can see a little glimpse of the old Miggy again, because that's what we want to see. It's good for baseball, and hopefully he's not done.
Yeah, I don't think he kept the best care of his body throughout the years. Like if you look at him when he was younger, he is like double the size he was then. And I understand that because he's a power hitter and he's lifted, but he doesn't strike me as a guy that stays in shape and like eats the right way. So, his career could end at 35 rather than some of these guys that are stretching to like 38, 39, still getting good value.
Hall of Famer for sure. Triple Crown winner, Triple Crown. We're both having tough times saying things today. Triple Crown winner. So I mean, it's one of those things where it's at least I haven't looked at the numbers, but in my head, he's a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame, first ballot.
Yeah, he's got 2,676 hits. I mean, he could end up getting to 3,000. Yeah, I mean, almost over 450 home runs, 316 career average. I think he's definitely in.
He checks off all the boxes.
Yeah.
Except he's never won a World Series, has he?
Yeah.
Was he on the team with the Marlins?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can check that box too. Good for Miggy. He's had one hell of a career. If it is the end, then sucks that it has to end with an injury, but it's a great career.
And he was stuck in Detroit all those years too. Like that must be tough for a guy from Venezuela to be stuck in like the cold climate and stuff, especially
Talk
Detroit.
About polar opposites.
Props to him for staying with them.
Yeah, definitely. All right, on to the next one here. The Astros, 11-game win streak right now. Tonight they play the Tampa Bay Rays, so it'll probably be 12. Probably the most impressive part of this for me is that it was on the road. All 10 games during this win streak were on the road. I know we shouldn't be all that surprised. These are the defending champs. They should be winning a lot of games. But now that I think they're only a game behind the Red Sox for the best record in the majors. The standings are weird right now with like the Yankees having played like 6 less games and all that stuff. But they have one less win at this moment than the Boston Red Sox. So I think we're seeing a shift here where the Astros are establishing themselves as still very much the team to beat after winning the World Series last year. I still think that they're going to come out of the American League. The Red Sox and the Yankees are so far behind when it comes to talent. Still, even though like the Yankees got Giancarlo Stanton and all that shit, and the Red Sox got JD Martinez, I still think they're so far behind Houston.
I 100% agree with you. And I think, people were talking about the Warriors in the NBA earlier this season. They're like, what's going on with them? They're not coming out to the start they did the year prior. And I think it's just one of those things when you come off a championship, you do have a little bit of a hangover. And the Warriors ended up winning the championship because they turned it on when they need to. The Astros turn it on when they need to. The Seattle's really put a fire under their ass, I think, because they could have walked away with this division, definitely because the Angels have been struggling lately. But the Mariners have been coming up hard, and it made the Astros be like, all right, we got to win some games. We don't want to be getting that wild card game because all bets are off at that point. And
the Mariners kept up, too. They're only a game and a half back.
Oh, yeah.
They kept up the entire time.
It's crazy. If you look at Houston's home road split, they're 19-14 at home, and they're 29-11 on the road. So they're an unreal road team, which is just you never see that with a first-place team. Like, if you look at the Yankees, Red Sox, it's pretty even across the board, but they are exponentially a better road team than a home team. So that's just interesting, and it shows that they're just mentally tough. They bond together on the road. They're the team to beat still, and I don't think it's really close, especially pitching-wise. Yankees and Red Sox, I think, are light years away from what the Astros can throw out there, and I'm sure they'll make a move at the deadline to get some more bullpen help as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other aspect to this, too, that I have my eye on for sure, because this is going to end up being an interesting race. The Red Sox are on pace, I believe, right now. They're not going to reach this mark. That'd be absurd. But I think for 107 wins, the Yankees are on pace for 111 wins. And that would force the Red Sox into a wild card game. As of today, that wild card game would be against the Mariners. I'm not confident in that game. The Red Sox just faced the Mariners in a series where they split the 4-game series. And there are a couple, Wade LeBlanc, I don't even know how to properly say the guy's last name, but he shut the Red Sox down. The Red Sox have some serious issues against lefties. I'm sure the Mariners would still throw out James Paxton in that game. But even though the Red Sox did pretty well against Paxton, I still would not feel well in that wild card matchup.
How crazy is it that we went from not believing in the Mariners to now thinking they can beat the Red Sox?
I don't think they'll get to the wild card game. I think a collapse is ahead. The Mariners, I have to die on this hill now because I've been so out on them this entire season. But if they do, prove me wrong and get to the wild card game, I am not going to feel good about it.
Who else would make the wild card game, though, at this point?
The second half is always crazy. I really don't know. I guess probably the Angels would be the only real competition. Maybe I haven't. Let me look at the standings. Are the Twins still in it? Probably not. Right? The Tigers are above the Twins. Fuck.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah. I understand Seattle could take a step back, and I think they'll all step back. But there's not a ton of competition for them to get that wild card spot. It's literally these top 4 teams. It's literally Red Sox, Yankees, Houston, Seattle. Cleveland's struggling, so I don't even put them in that group right now.
Cleveland will figure it out. They were struggling at this point last year, too. They're going to win the division. It really is those 4 teams, though, right this second. I didn't realize Detroit was ahead of Minnesota. That's eye-opening, to say the least, because I thought Detroit was supposed to be, the worst team in baseball. I don't know. The standings are so strange this season, and another part of that is the Red Sox have not really beaten anybody this year because there's nobody to really beat. You know what I mean? Their schedule has been so fucking easy, which is why they have so many wins right now. They have not really beaten anybody. The Mariners, they split with. The Angels, they beat. That was back then, that was probably one of the better teams that they took down. The Yankees, they've had a tough time against. The Astros, they did okay against. I don't know. It's a weird year to gauge exactly how good teams are.
Well, I think that's what your first point was. These teams are on pace for over 100 wins because the AL is so shitty at the bottom in the middle.
Exactly.
They're literally just racking up wins, while the NL, there's a lot more parity, so no team is really on pace to get that many wins. It just speaks to how shitty the rest of the AL is. Nothing the Red Sox can do. You got to beat the teams on your schedule, right? The playoffs will be will be the first time that we're really getting a glimpse of like, all right, there's some pressure baseball with good teams on the field.
Yeah, and I feel like there haven't been that many times that I've been, I don't want to say tuned out of baseball because I'm still very much tuned in, but the competition is so bad now that it is kind of like once you get to the summer, it's like wake me up in September almost. So I have that feeling that I've never had that with baseball before. I've always looked at it as like if you're a fan, you'll follow no matter what, and that's kind of I'm following it obviously, but it's tough sometimes. It is tough. So I can see why a casual fan will be like, wake me up when it actually matters.
When's the last time you watched Sunday Night Baseball? Because I used to watch that every week, and I haven't watched it the past. I don't think I've watched it this season unless like the Red Sox are on it. I just don't have an interest in the other teams because there's so many shitty matchups.
Yeah.
You look down the schedule each night, and it's just like Mets and Rockies. I don't want to watch that game. Rangers Royals. I don't want to watch that. You know, Dodgers Cubs is probably the only matchup I would watch.
That one's good. Yeah. That one's all right.
Marlins Giants, no thanks.
It's just, no, Marlins Giants sounds like an absolute shit. I don't want any part of that. But like last night, I think it was Cubs Cardinals. I tuned in for that because I mean that's classic rivalry. It's two NL Central teams that I always enjoy watching go at it. But you're right in the sense that when it's teams that are sort of irrelevant, to be honest, and that you know for a fact are not going to compete for a playoff spot, it's like, what's the point of really tuning into this? Unless you're betting on it. There's no point.
That's
the one major problem baseball has.
We're on autopilot right now. You know, the Red Sox,
totally.
They pretty much have, I don't want to say they have playoff spot locked up, but they would have to have an epic collapse at this point to not.
Which we've seen before.
Playoffs.
We've seen it before. Look back, I think it was 2000 and what year was that?
I think. No, not 2012.
12. It was 12. Yeah. When the Orioles, you all know what happened there.
The
Orioles of all teams, they just earned their 20th win of the season.
Congrats to the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, congrats. Oh shit, the Orioles suck. Another team that sucked to begin the year is the Dodgers. Now, this is an interesting topic for us because you were notoriously out on the Dodgers. You declared yourself 100% out. You were out going into the season. I asked you probably a month and a half after this, like into the season, the little Dodgers update. I think you still said you were out. Now they're a game and a half behind the Diamondbacks for the NL West lead. Are you still out on the Dodgers? Have you changed your mind on this team?
I'm coming around on the Dodgers, but at this point, as it currently stands, I'm still out on the Dodgers.
Okay.
The one thing that's giving me pause is I'm not sold on the Diamondbacks, and the Rockies have been underwhelming the last couple of weeks. By the way, can I just give a quick shout out to Trevor Story, my guy? He is having an unreal stretch right now, and it's going totally under the radar. He's hitting like 270, which was his issue last year, his average.
Yep.
He's got to be one of the best hitter shortstops in baseball. I know we always talk about the Lindor, Correa.
Right.
Story's hitting for power, driving in runs. He doesn't get talked about because he's out in Colorado. Nolan Arenado's the breadwinner. Charlie Blackmon's the breadwinner, but he's done a great job. Now, it hasn't turned out to wins. The Rockies are 2-8 in their last 10, but I don't see them beating the Dodgers. So right now, it's a Dodgers-Arizona race unless the Giants make a huge move at the deadline. I just don't think they have enough hitting. So I'm coming around on the Dodgers, but at this point, I'm still out just because the wild card race is pretty fervent, and the D-backs just need to stay above the Dodgers, stay above the Mendoza line there.
I am willing to say I'm all in on the Dodgers. I think they're winning this division. I think they're running away with the division in the second half. I don't see enough in this division. I think the Rockies are actually going to end up finishing second. I don't think the Diamondbacks are consistent enough. They've shown that already this season. They were hot to start the year, and then they started struggling, and now they're doing okay again. I don't trust them. I don't trust the Giants. The Giants are just, I don't know what to think of them. And then the Dodgers, without how bad they were to start the season, they've turned it on with Justin Turner coming back. Clayton Kershaw hasn't played at all this season. And when he's officially back, if he's officially back, that changes the entire dynamic of this team. For them to only be a game and a half out right now of the NL West, that says a lot. So I think the second half is going to be, we're going to see them pull away. I think probably around the trade deadline is where I'd guess they might even make a move at the deadline to really make themselves pull away.
I always like to look at Vegas to see what the odds are, and the Dodgers right now are currently plus 135 to win the NL West, and those are the best odds. D-backs are plus 150, so that's good value to bet. At this point in the season, if you think they're going to win, so the Vegas clearly thinks the Dodgers are going to end up winning the division. So,
yep. And I mean, they're still the Dodgers. I mean, they should win the division no matter how slow they were out the gate. It's a long season. They look to be starting to figure it out. And I think Cody Bellinger, he's still not the Cody Bellinger he was last year, but he's a major part of this team still, obviously. And I think the team, when they threatened to send him down, that lit a fire under his ass, and he started to hit a little bit better. So that's the little update there with the standings. And I think the NL West is probably right now, other than the AL Central, AL Central is still probably the biggest shit show of a division. But the NL West is definitely the most competitive, where it's like the first 3 or 4 teams have a shot. But, it's going to come down to 1 or 2 at the end, and it'll get interesting. It's going to get interesting for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like Kershaw is going to be back in early July too. He's been throwing off a mound, and then if they can get Walker Buehler back, who is on the DL for a little bit, they'll have some arms there that they can go on a run.
Yeah, injuries were a major part to their slow start, so I think that has a lot to do with a lot of people thought this was just a bad team this season. They were decimated by injuries, and that went under the radar big time. And now that people are starting to get healthy, they're starting to do well. Let's get into the All-Star voting, because the NL All-Star voting are the leading vote getters were revealed today, Monday, and there were some interesting ones on there. I think actually everyone on this list except the one person was well-deserved, and it's not the person that you would immediately think by looking at the list. So I'll read the list here. For first base, the leading vote getter was Freddie Freeman, who's an absolute stud. No surprise there.
Yep.
Second base, it was Ozzie Albies. He slowed down a little bit, but still, I'd say it's well-deserved. And he's a rookie. He's been one of the better stories in baseball, so I have no problem with it. Third base is my guy, Nolan Arenado. It's a no-brainer. And the fact that Chris Bryant is second in this makes me sick, because he's actually been terrible. Shortstop, Brandon Crawford. He doesn't really have that much competition for it. I know Trevor Story's been heating up a lot lately, but Crawford's been pretty rock solid all season long. He's hitting .338, so that has a lot to do with it too. Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper is the leading outfield vote getter, I believe. Actually, I'll get to that in a second. But Bryce Harper is on this list. And this, in my humble opinion, does not deserve to be on this list. What's your take on that when I say that? Bryce Harper should not be an all-star.
If you look at the stats,
starting all-star, sorry.
If you look at the stats, I totally agree with you. But who do we want to see in the All-Star game? We want to see Bryce Harper.
Yep.
And to me, it's like you have to make a decision whether it's a popularity contest or a stats-driven contest.
It's always an in-between. It always is.
I hate it. The NBA is all about popularity. Who do you want to see on the court? Like, who do you want to see play? And I want to see Bryce Harper hit rather than Nick Markakis. I'm sorry.
I was about to say that. Yeah.
I'm sorry. So I'd rather see Bryce Harper in it. That's me. That's what I want to see in my All-Star game. But Nick Markakis should be starting if it goes by the stats.
100% agree with everything you just said. I have been of the belief, just as a baseball fan, like, I just think the best for that year should be on the All-Star team that year, regardless of who is putting asses in the seats. However, if you want to use that argument that Bryce Harper is the guy you would rather see in the All-Star game over Nick Markakis, I am not going to argue that, because I think everyone would agree. Everyone as a spectator would rather see Bryce Harper in the game. But if you're going to pick one, whether it's a popularity contest or stats, I lean towards the stats, because I just think that's the entire reason it's called the All-Star game, and it's every single year. It's because who is doing the best this year? Okay, Markakis is, Matt Kemp is, he's the other one on this list. Those guys are having the best years. I don't like a guy who's hitting 220 being in the All-Star game. To me, is comical. That's the way I look at that. But it's Bryce Harper, so like the name gets him in, but it still rubs me the wrong way, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the voting, the AL team is so much better than the NL team in my mind. It's it's sort of
Yeah.
taken a 180. Like the NL used to be, I think, the better league, but I think the AL has more star power now and better players.
I agree with that. And the AL actually has always won the All-Star game. Like they went through a span where they won like a million straight games, but I always thought the NL had the better on paper teams. This year, I'll get into these are the leading vote getters. I don't have the updated list. This is as of a week ago. I don't know if there's an updated list somewhere, but this one I have in front of me has Gary Sanchez as the catcher. This is another case where it's like he doesn't really have that much competition this season. And I don't think he's having that great of a year. He just has the home runs. So I guess give it to him just because, power guy, whatever. First base is Jose Abreu, who, I mean, you can make an argument for Moreland, but Moreland's had a cool stretch lately, and Jose Abreu has been pretty consistent all season long, so I agree with it. Miguel Cabrera being third, by the way, is tragic. He's third for vote getters on first base, so rest in peace,
People
Miguel
love
Cabrera.
Miggy. Yeah, people love Miggy.
Yeah, and they should. Second base is Jose Altuve, to be expected. Second place here for second base is Gleyber Torres. So that's pretty cool. I like seeing that. Even though he's a Yankee, still one of the more fun players to watch.
Yep.
Third base is Jose Ramirez, followed by another Yankee rookie, in Miguel Andujar. Who saw that coming at the beginning of the year? Miguel Andujar has been tearing it up for the Yankees, but Jose Ramirez obviously is the guy deserving of that. Shortstop, Manny Machado, obviously, but this one's interesting because of how many star-studded shortstops there are, especially in the American League. First place for this is Manny Machado. He should get that. 2 is Francisco Lindor. 3 is Didi Gregorius. Him being ahead of Carlos Correa on this list is mind-blowing, but Correa's 4th. And Andrelton Simmons, who will probably go down as one of the more underrated players ever, is 5th. And then
you could go 10 deep at shortstop in the AL and still have
totally.
like a solid play. Like Eduardo Escobar for the Twins.
Yeah.
He's been unreal this year. He's on my fantasy team. That's the only reason I'm shouting him out. He's been really good for like going under the radar for sure.
How about Bogarts not even being in the top 5 too? And he's actually been having a pretty good year. So
it's crazy because he was like one of these talked about prospects across baseball, not just with Red Sox fans. And the fact that he didn't get off to such a great start in his career. I mean, he was good, but he wasn't what everyone thought he was. I think it's sort of put a damper on his name recognition across the league.
Totally. Outfield. Mookie Betts, obviously. Mike Trout, obviously. Aaron Judge is 3rd. This is where I think you can kind of make an argument, but Aaron Judge puts asses in the seats for sure, so I have no problem with him there. Now, 4th through 15 is interesting for the outfield. I'm going to run through it really quickly. 4th is Michael Brantley. 5th is George Springer. 6th is Andrew Benintendi. 7th, Brett Gardner. 8th, Marwin Gonzalez. 9 is Nicholas Castellanos, and the dude is hitting like 340 right now. So I don't know how this happens, where these guys who are having these unbelievable seasons, their names are not out there. People don't even know they exist, and they're having these amazing seasons. So that's another issue with the MLB that we spoke of earlier. Josh Reddick 10th, Aaron Hicks 11th, Jackie Bradley Jr. is 12th. How? I have no fucking idea. Mitch Haniger 13th, Eddie Rosario 14th.
Eddie Rosario is having a great year
Eddie Rosario has been, you can make an argument, like one of the best players in the American League, and he is 14th amongst outfielders. That's crazy to me. So the voting system is all sorts of fucked up. And on DH, JD Martinez, no big deal, is leading over Giancarlo Stanton. So take that, fucking Tony Maz talking about how he wants a star in Giancarlo Stanton. JD Martinez is the star, not Giancarlo. Things have changed over the past year. JD Martinez is the real star.
I might start a petition to get these 2 Twins guys in the All-Star game, Eduardo Escobar and Eddie Rosario. I might start my own hashtag and get these guys voted in.
I will tweet that hashtag out because they're both awesome. So I guess that's a good way to transition into. We'll give All-Star updates as it comes. I think it's mid-July like it always is. So it's in the coming weeks. We will, if there is any update to that, we will update with All-Star stuff. Good transition, though, into our duds and when you're hot, you're hots. As always, we will start with our duds of the week, and I will give mine first. Yoan Moncada is my dud of the week. And I think he's one of the very few players this season who has been a dud more than once. So he's on the dud list again, 2 for 24 in the past week. And I've come to realize guy can't field the ground ball. Guy cannot field. He's terrible. So there's really nothing he does very well. He's not a very good base runner. Like there's nothing he can. He's still young, so I have faith he'll develop over time. But he's been god awful this season.
So as it stands now, the Red Sox totally won that trade, right? At this point.
1,000%. Yeah, at this point, 1,000%.
Because I know people are high on Kopech, but he hasn't come up yet. So
yeah, we'll see what he turns into. But at this moment, the Red Sox ran away with that trade for sure.
Yeah, I dropped Moncada from my fantasy team, so I'm totally on the Yoan Moncada dud train. So my dud, we talked about him early in the show, Bryce Harper.
Okay.
His batting average was 63 this week, not over 100. Very bad. He shaved his beard, though, so we'll see if that turns around from him. They play the Yankees tonight, so maybe it's something linked to that. He wants to show the Yankees that, I'm willing to shave my beard. Yeah. Because as a Yankee, you have to shave your facial hair. So Bryce Harper, just been a dud the whole year, but lately it's picked up a little bit, and we'll see what happens with him in the coming weeks.
Yep. Now we'll move on to when you're hot, you're hot. So I'll let you start with this one.
I feel like we might have the same guy.
I think well, let's hear it.
All right, mine's Mike Trout.
Okay, mine's not Mike Trout. Actually, the only reason I didn't do Mike Trout is because it's just like, oh, of course, like Mike Trout had a good week. Like that's like I didn't want to do that, but I'm glad you did because I was very close to doing it.
Yeah, so Trout's almost hit 700 this week, batting average, 4 home runs, 7 RBIs. The Angels are 1-5 this past week, so
sad.
Get Mike Trout off the Angels, please.
Fucking sad.
Let's start that petition. And he didn't even win Player of the Week. Evan Gattis from the Astros won Player of the Week. What does Mike Trout have to do to get some love? I don't know. It's one of those things that we talked about.
Mike Trout just had arguably the best week in Major League history, and no one cares. No one cares.
No one cares, and his team sucks. His team stinks.
His team is so bad. Do you think Mike Trout's secretly pissed off? Because I don't think he is. I think he has no clue, like, just how bad it is.
To me, like, I hate to put this on the guy, but I just think of him as a simple baseball mind. Like, he's just like, all right, just got to get hits, like, help my team. Yeah. It's like, dude, look at the bigger picture. Your team stinks and you're stuck in LA, like, with this team that just will never get over the hump.
Do you think he's going to end up on, I don't know, like the Phillies? He's such a Philly guy. Do you think he stays with the Angels once he hits free, like, once that time comes?
I don't know. Like, this is the problem with baseball. I have no read on the guy's personality. I know he's a huge Philly guy. He's a huge Eagles guy, Sixers. So maybe he does go to the Phillies. He seems like he's very loyal to there more than other guys from their hometown. Right. But I could see him going to the highest bidder too. I mean, I think he's a Scott Boras guy, so he'll definitely just take the highest contract and just take all these teams out to dinner and just wine and dine them, and then probably just go to the Yankees probably again. That's just how it works.
I would not put it past Mike Trout to re-sign with the Angels. I just would not put it past him.
Got to show my loyalty. We'll get it done. Me and Ohtani.
In reality, I actually could see him on the Phillies because they're turning into a competitive team, and they got a lot of young guys. You throw Mike Trout into the mix, and I think they become a real competitor. And if Bryce Harper does stay with the Nationals, which I personally don't think he will, but if he does, that creates a real nice NL East rivalry there between the Phillies and the Nationals for sure. And Juan Soto, by the way, speak on him again. I don't want to jump the gun, all right? But I think Juan Soto has become the most exciting player in Washington. I'll say that. I'm just going to say that. Just leave that there for everyone else to fester on.
I actually agree with you. Just looking at his swing compared to Bryce Harper, I think he has better staying power because he stays inside the baseball better than Harper, who pulls off of everything nowadays.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and he's 19. Let's just mention that one more time. Juan Soto's 19 years old, so he stole Harper's thunder big time. My when you're hot is a guy you touched on earlier, Eduardo Escobar. So the week that he had, I think he hit upwards of like 430 or in that area. I believe that's what it was when I looked at the stats. But I didn't really put him on the list because of like his stats from the past week. I more put him on it because he is quietly, and I stress that word quietly, on pace to set the single season record for doubles. He's on pace, I think, for 72 doubles. The record is 67. I don't think he's going to hit this mark because you know how like he'll regress to the mean in some sort of way, whatever. But that needs to be said. He's on pace for the most doubles ever in a season. I think that is a good enough reason to be on When You're Hot list.
I think he hit 6 straight doubles over the weekend. Just all the guy does is hit doubles. Like even if he could leg it out for a triple, he's like, just stay on second. He legs out singles, turns them into doubles. So maybe he's going for that record. You might as well, if you're on the Twins, you might as well just go for your own personal records at this point. And we'll get
why not?
Red Sox are playing them tomorrow, starting a series, so we'll get to see them up close and personal.
That is, if there's one good thing about playing all these shitty teams, it's that we at least get to see these players that we never hear about that are actually good. Like, I don't want to watch a Red Sox Twins game, but I will because I like watching Eddie Rosario's. I like watching the Eduardo Escobars. I like watching all these guys, the Jose Barrioses of the world, like all of these guys. I just like seeing them play. So that is one consolation of, seeing all these really shitty teams play against your team. All right. So we will wrap this up with just one mailbag question. We only have one question because Graz is gone. We don't have a full mailbag this week, but hopefully Graz will be back next week. This one is a question I've been sitting on for about a week or two. And I think it's a really, really good who would you rather have question. This question is, who would you rather have for the next 5 years? Shohei Ohtani, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Cody Bellinger, Gleyber Torres, Ozzie Albies, or Juan Soto? At this moment, you can pick one of those guys to build a team around. Who are you taking?
This is tough. Definitely not Bellinger. Ohtani, definitely not at this point. Vlad Jr., still haven't seen what he can do in the major leagues. I think it's down to Torres, Albies, and Soto. I'm going to go with the next 5 years.
Yes.
I think if it was the next 10 years, I'd go with Soto, but the next 5 years, I think I'm going to go with Gleyber Torres from the Yankees. I think Soto's an outfielder while Torres can play that left side of the infield position. Anytime you can get, big time pop and power out of those positions, I take it. So I'm going to go Gleyber Torres, even though he's a Yankee.
You know what? I am agreeing with you. We have pretty much the same exact answer, which makes me believe it's the correct answer. I don't want Ohtani because of the elbow issues. I don't want Vlad Jr. because we haven't seen what he can do at the major league level, even though I do believe it's going to be amazing. We just haven't seen it, so there's no way I can choose him. Bellinger, we've seen the good and the bad, and I don't want the bad. Gleyber Torres, we have not seen the bad yet, and we've only seen the good, and the guy he hasn't done anything wrong at the major league level. Never mind, like a couple of these guys, we've seen two sides of them, or we just haven't seen them at all. Torres has not given us a reason to think that he's going to be bad. Ozzie Albies, he's slowing down, so I don't want him. It's between Soto and Torres. I've seen more of Torres over a longer period of time. I'm taking Torres in a close 1-2 versus Soto. That would be my pick. And we'll leave that open to the listeners too. If you guys want to tweet us at Tater Talk Pod, your answer, and we'll probably post. It was actually an MLB.com graphic that they had. It was a good question that they put on social. So we'll tweet that out on our Twitter at Tater Talk Pod. And follow us there at Tater Talk Pod. Like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram as well. And subscribe on iTunes. Leave us a nice little 5-star review. And if it's a funny one or a good one, whatever, we will read it on the show. All that good stuff. Zach, do we have any last words?
Nope. No Graz this week, so I think we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, no Graz. That is sad. We don't have a one last thing. Usually the episode goes on for another 10 minutes there because Graz has this one little rant. But no rant today. We'll end it there. We'll see you guys later.
Peace.